Welcome to Linked and Automated Numbering Systems. In this lesson, you'll learn to use paragraph numbering and cross-references. We'll show you how to get single and multi-level auto-paragraph numbering to do exactly what you want and expect. Avoid numbering surprises and frustration by learning how to use the tools correctly. Discover how linked and automated numbering can help you reference provisions and briefs in contracts and automatically and accurately update them. Never waste time manually renumbering paragraphs and provision references again. We'll cover features which are available for Microsoft Word for Windows or Mac.
Hi, I'm Ivory Gray from WordBreak, and I'm with Baron Henley from Affinity Consulting. And today we are talking about linked and automated numbering systems. The Word features that we'll cover are paragraph numbering and cross-references. Take it away, Baron.
Hey, hi, everyone. So a lot of times we have a document that does not have automatic paragraph numbering, and we want to create it, right? So the first question is, how do you know if your paragraph numbers are typed or they're automatic? And the answer is you click on them. If they turn gray when you click on them, you've got an automatic paragraph number going on. And if they don't, if you can get your cursor to the left of a paragraph number, it is typed. And let me just press pause on this subject for 1 second. It is wrong to type a paragraph number in any Word document ever. There's no gray area. There's no, sometimes this is okay. It's never okay. You're using Word like a typewriter. That just means everything's going to take longer. And if you add a new paragraph number and then have to waste 20 minutes renumbering manually all the subsequent paragraphs, you don't get to bill anyone for that. So one of the reasons we don't use typewriters anymore is for this function. And I get that it's a little mysterious. It's difficult to control, some believe. I'm hopefully going to demystify it for you so you'll be able to get it to do what you want and change it if you don't like what you see and replicate it if you've got it in some part of the document but not in other parts of the document.
So to interject there, a lot of times you will be at a midnight filing deadline or a deal closing deadline, and at the last minute, opposing counsel or co-counsel will strike a paragraph. And with your bad luck, it's towards the beginning. And if you do that and you haven't used automatic paragraph numbering, and like Baron said, you have to renumber, you will be frustrated. You'll have to touch everything after that. And the more you touch it manually, the more likely you are to introduce new mistakes. And you won't meet your deadlines and file or close in time. So if you use these, you'll reduce frustration and you're more likely to meet those deadlines and even possibly beat them.
Right on. So what I want to do here, let me further explain something about Word. If I made this an automatic paragraph number, let me show you an example of what happens if this document isn't set up correctly. So here's a simple 2-paragraph document. Automatic paragraph numbering is being used. So the issue is many times I've got single-spaced paragraphs, but I would like a blank line in between each one of those paragraphs. So what I often people do is they'll use hard returns, and that works fine after a title, but it does not work fine after a numbered paragraph because, of course, it numbers that line, and then you're going to have to backspace to get rid of the number. That's mildly annoying, but it's even worse when you add a new paragraph at the end. I hit enter, and I get a number, but I want to create vertical space, and I've been doing that with hard returns, and maybe you know what happens when I hit a hard return. Not what you expect. The number disappears, and my cursor stays on the same line. So what people do is they'll hit a hard return, they'll come back up here, hit another hard return, come down here, type the paragraph, come back up here, and backspace to get rid of that number. One of the rules of word processing is that if you have to do this repetitive, annoying thing to every paragraph every single time, you're missing a feature that could make your life easier. And there is definitely a feature that can make your life easier related to this. And we're going to talk about it more in a subsequent class, but there's a feature that can add space between your paragraphs. And there's a button that enables it right here on the home ribbon. And if you click on it, one of your choices is at the bottom, you can see there, add space after paragraph. Okay, and if you're using single line spacing and you want space between the paragraphs, then it is essential to use the automatic paragraph spacing, because if it were set up that way, then, so if I take out the hard returns that were already here, okay, and I take out this hard return and I just select this and I add space after the paragraph. Now, when I go to the end of this paragraph and hit enter, I get a new paragraph, right? But the spacing between them is automatic. If I come down here and hit enter, I'm already moved down where I need to be, and I'm not going to have to hit another hard return and go back up and delete the numbered line. So
I'll jump in on that with why you might want those spaces. So the answer wouldn't be to simply not include the spaces. For clarity and visibility and understandability of the document, the way that you use white space helps to visually indicate that things go together. And it makes it easier for people who are not lawyers to see the connections and the structure between the documents. So you want to use these features so that you can close deals, people understand deals, and you have less back and forth. That makes lawyers and anybody who works with lawyers part of the deal flow rather than a roadblock to the deal.
Good point. So there is the feature that it turned on when I click this button is if you right click a paragraph after it's been applied, you will see on the indents and spacing tab of the paragraph dialog, this is what it added right down here, which is that 12-point after. I'll explain in a subsequent class what that means. You would think that the 12 points is referring to the point size of the font I'm using, and it has absolutely nothing to do with that. It's actually a physical measurement, which we'll explain more about that later. But I just want to point out what was going on behind the curtain there when we said, I need blank lines between these paragraphs. So let's go back to the document we had all of our manually numbered paragraphs in. If I turn on my show hide button, you can see I've got all those hard returns sitting there. If I want to make this a document that's usable and I don't want to number all these blank lines, then before I apply the paragraph numbering, I would want to get rid of all these things and then use the automatic paragraph spacing and before I put on my numbers. So now there is a way to quickly get rid of all the extra hard returns between paragraphs, or if you don't want to use the method I'm about to show you, you can go in and delete them manually. Now, this is not a terribly long document, but that would still be annoying to have to go through and delete all those hard returns. So what you do, on the home ribbon, there is a replace button. And if you click on replace, you're going to get this dialog. Now, it is important, here's another rule of Word. If you see a more button anywhere in any dialog in Word ever, always click it. All they're doing is hiding stuff from you. And here's what I want to tell this document to do. Every time there was 2 hard returns in a row, I want to swap that out with 1. And that will effectively delete the second hard return every time in this document the author hit enter twice in a row. So if I click more, you see I get a lot more buttons and checkboxes. One of them is the special button. And if you click on that, you'll see at the very top, there's an option to look for a paragraph mark. Don't choose this one, that's the paragraph symbol. This is the one that is actually a hard return. And when I click on that, it's going to put a $P in the box, and that's a lowercase p. And so what I want to tell it is find 2 of those in a row. So I go right back to the same button and I say find another one. Then what do I want to replace it with? One of those. And you can, like I never click this button because I know to type $P, and I do this literally on a daily basis because I'm always taking out hard returns from documents when I'm cleaning them up. So you can just type $P, replace with $P. You don't have to use that special button, and really you don't even need to hit the more button because you can just type it. But in any event, all I do is I hit replace all. It just deleted 18 hard returns, okay? So
if you're afraid to hit replace all, you can do one after the other, and it will still take you less time than going through the document and manually deleting each one.
Yeah.
So yeah. The first time you might want to do one at a time, but after that, you should feel pretty confident with replace all.
Yeah. So now I've got the document all tightened up. Now at this point, I could select it, and I want to show you what happens. I'm just going to say add space after paragraph. Okay, so now I've got the spacing set up correctly. Now, you can, if I want to replace these typed paragraph numbers with automatic paragraph numbers, then what you can do is select all the text that has the typed paragraph numbers. So I'm going to select this whole thing, and I'll scroll back up to the top. And then you've got 3 buttons up here to create paragraph bullets or numbers. These first 2 buttons, the straight line bullets and the straight line numbers, I would encourage you never to click those for any reason whatsoever. And there's a good reason for it. They can only paint you into a corner because they do not have sub-levels. So even if let's say you've got a pleading and you just got Arabic paragraph numbering with the first line half-inch indent, and that's it. There's no sub-levels. You're still always better off starting with the multi-level list button, because if you decide at some point that you do need a sub-level, well, guess what? There are a total of 9 levels in that button. So you can always access the next level that maybe you didn't think you needed in the first place, but now you discover you do. So, and this is not just letters and numbers. It can also be bullets. Any combination of numbers, letters, and bullets can be set up with a multi-level list. So these are limiting. This one is not limiting. Furthermore, this gives you a lot more control over whether it's a number, a bullet, a letter, or what. And you'll see in the layout, this gives me a lot more power as well. So I click on this. Here's another rule of Word. Resist the temptation to choose one of the options that appears in one of the drop-down lists. I don't care where it is. That's going to impose some stuff on you if I pick one of these things. And a lot of times you're going to spend more time trying to fix the mess it gave you than if you had created your own scheme in the custom scheme in the first place. And you do that here. Define a new multi-level list. Okay, so I click on this, and it's showing me my 9 levels. Remember the rule I just mentioned about more buttons? Please click the more button so you can see everything else in here. And let me explain what you're looking at. I'll zoom in a little bit. All right, so here are my 9 levels I can use. I click on the 1, and down here it's showing me it's an Arabic 1 with a paragraph with a parenthesis after it. So the first thing to note is that little 1 is gray, and that's telling you that it's a field. And here's why that's important. If you didn't want this to be an Arabic 1, let's say you wanted it to be Roman numerals. If you were to backspace on this and type a Roman numeral there, okay, guess what? Every paragraph is going to be Roman numeral 1. It's not going to count. So you don't type the paragraph number. If you don't like what you see there, you simply choose what you want from the list that's directly below that little white box. And if I scroll down this, you can see there's lots and lots of choices. So if I put in an Arabic 1 there, and let's say I've got a period afterwards, and I change my mind, I want it to be Roman numerals. Okay, choose Roman numerals. Choose alpha. Choose Romanettes. It'll just swap them out for you. So in this case, I can type whatever I want before and after the number, but you never type that number. It's always got to come from this dropdown. So, I could get in front of this and make this a section. I could say this could be interrogatory number 1, and it would count my interrogatories. You do, there is a limit on how much you can type here. That's it right there. I just hit it, but there's a lot of space for typing stuff.
I also want to jump in there with the things like interrogatory and other words that are written all caps. All caps are a very easy way for you to introduce mistakes that you simply gloss over and don't see. So if you're going to be using those numbers and those titles over and over again, you definitely want to make that part of your numbering scheme and get it right once and get it right always. Right.
And as a side note, Word by default does not spell check things you type in all caps. We're going to talk in a subsequent class how to fix that. It's a super annoying default setting in Word, and you can fix it. Actually, Outlook does the same thing. And obviously, as lawyers, there's lots of stuff we have to type in all caps, and we want that all to be spell checked. So sometimes you can misspell the word interrogatory and it skips right over it because you typed in all caps. Anyway, so moving down this dialog, the font button, I would only click if I wanted the 1 in the period to be formatted differently than the paragraph that follows the 1 in the period. Okay, if I click on the font button, you'll see it appears that nothing is selected. It doesn't appear a font style, a size, or anything is selected. And that's because the number is just going to look to see what comes next and mirror that. So unless you want it to be different, don't worry clicking the font button. And hardly ever do I want it to be different. Occasionally, I might want the number to be bold, even though the paragraph following it is not. And if that was the case, I would only choose bold. I wouldn't touch the size. I wouldn't touch the font. I would pick only the attribute that I wanted specifically to apply. Okay, so normally don't need to click font.
So usually I will apply bold and the all caps.
I'm sorry?
I often will apply bold and all caps from that font button.
Yeah, so, and that'll force, like if the whole rest of my paragraph is bold, the number will be bold. But sometimes just the title is bold, but I want the number to be bold. Okay, then you need to click font and make that bold. All right. Okay, moving down this dialog. Left, and so this is a weird setting, and I would only be able to demonstrate it for you if I was doing Romanets, kind of beyond the scope of this short class. But basically, you want this to be left all the time. Even if I had like a centered chapter, you would think, oh, shouldn't that be centered? No, it's going to make it off center if you do that. So this is going to default to left, leave it at left. And maybe in a subsequent class, we'll explain how I can only just demonstrate what this does. If you switch these to the centered and right, it's too hard to explain verbally. But these settings I can easily explain. This means how far away from the left margin do you want the first line of your paragraph to be? And this is how far away from the left margin do you want the second and subsequent lines of the paragraph to be? Okay, so if I move over here, in this, if we were doing level 2, which we're going to do in a minute, you'd see that my first line is moved over a ½ inch, so aligned at would be 0.5, but the second and subsequent lines of the paragraph come all the way back to the margin, so the text indent at would be a 0. And you can experiment with this. It's fine if you do it wrong the first time. You can always go in and change it. It's very easy, as you can see. But here, I have the word article in front of my paragraph number, so I want to make sure I capture that. So I'm going to come up here and type the word article in front of it. And here, the article is on the margin, so this is actually correct. And the question is, if this was going to be a long paragraph, let me move this down. So let's say my title was really long and it went all the way to the edge and wrapped. Do you want the second line of that paragraph to come all the way back under the word article? Or maybe would you want it to line up under the D in distributions? I would probably want it to line up under the D. If that's the case, you can see on my ruler, that would be 1 inch. So maybe for the first level, I want this to be a 1. Now, the next level, a bit more complicated because it's compound numbering. So what I do is I click on level 2, and I'm going to, if I didn't say this in the first place, I'm going to set up all my levels at once. You don't have to keep clicking OK and then go back into it. Just do it all at once. So I click on level 2, and as you can see, that is a lowercase alpha. So we're simply
also point out the value in doing it all at once means that you will be consistent. If you come back and you do them one at a time, you are likely to make different choices every time, and your numbering won't actually make sense to anyone but you. So if you want it to be consistent throughout your document and to follow coherent numbering scheme, then you really should do all 9 levels at once, even if you don't think that you're going to get 9 levels deep.
Okay, good point. So in this case, look at so let's talk first about compound numbering. As you know, the first number is not the paragraph number, it's the article number. The first number in a compound numbering is the prior level of the outline. The second number is actually the paragraph number. So the number that I see here is the second number. And as you can see, after that 1.1, there's no period after the second one. So I'm going to get rid of the paren, and I'm not going to replace it with a period. So here is one of the most mysterious things about paragraph numbering, particularly in Word and compound numbering in particular. How do you get the article number in front of that? And the answer is you stick your cursor in front of it, and that's the only time you use include level number from over here, because this will give you all the prior levels. I'm at level 2. There's obviously only one level above this, and it shows it to me. And so I click on it. Then I can add the period between them. So that is now article number dot paragraph number at level 2. All right. And you can do that for as many levels as you want. Right. So moving down here, how far away from the left margin is the 1.1? It's a ½ inch away. So this is going to be a 0.5. The second and subsequent lines of the paragraph, distribution, the reserves goes all the way back to the margin. So this needs to be a 0. You'll notice it's automatically, I forgot to mention this earlier, it's automatically followed with a tab character. You do have choices there to go space or nothing. In this case, I'm going to stick with the tab character, and that's going to be this distance right here between the 1.1 and the title. So level 2, we're good to go. You'll also notice up here, it'll say restart the list after level 1. So it'll go article 1, 1.1, 1.2, article 2, 2.1, 2.2, and it does that automatically. I did not have to check that box. It's pre-checked. Now, at level 3, you can't see it, but those were uppercase alpha. So I go down here and I switch to uppercase alpha. There was a period after it, so I get rid of the print and add a period. And in this case, it looked just like this, except the first line was moved over an additional ½ inch. So the first line was 1, and then the second and subsequent did come all the way back to the margin again, like the second level. And you can see I get like a little model of it up here. All right, now let me show you one more thing about this. Sometimes at level 1, I have Roman numerals. And as you can see, what does that do to my level 2? It makes it Roman numeral 1 dot Arabic 1. And that's not how I want that to look. I want that to be 2 Arabic numbers in a row. This is the only time that I use this little checkbox right here for legal style numbering. This converts Roman numerals to Arabic, as you can see when I check that or uncheck it. So if I'm not mixing Roman numerals with Arabic, I don't need to worry about that, which previously that's what I was doing. I had Arabic numbers here. And so my compound numbering, I didn't need to check that box because it's already what I wanted it to be. But just so you're aware of that. Okay, so now that I've got my numbering set up, and this is a 3-level outline, as Ivy said, you could go in and go ahead and set up your subsequent levels, but I'm going to show you how to later come back in and re-access this numbering scheme that you've begun. It's important that you know how to go back in and make changes because you're going to do that fairly often. Now, this is when I cross my fingers and click OK. Now, I want you to notice what happened. I got my numbers. As you can see, this is now an automatic paragraph number. This is an automatic paragraph number. It swapped out most of them except this guy. The first one, for whatever reason, this is the original typed number that was there. It did not replace it. So I do have to select that one and delete it. But as you can see, all the rest of the numbers are now automatic paragraph numbers. And that saved me a lot of time of going in and deleting those and then applying a new numbering scheme. Okay, now I want you to notice what else happened. My spacing between the paragraphs disappeared. And I want to show you why it did that. And this is, Word has lots and lots of annoying, predictable behaviors. Like I know it's going to do it. It annoys me every time it does it. I know, but I know how to fix it, and it's expected. Okay, now I selected all these paragraphs again, and I'm going to right click and go down to paragraph. And I just want to show you a checkbox was checked when I applied the paragraph numbering, which I didn't check. And it's this one right here. Don't add space between paragraphs of the same style. Okay, we're going to talk more about styles later, but in this document, all the paragraphs are the same style. So I don't want this checked. And I didn't check it. Word did it. But every time you select paragraphs and you impose a numbering scheme on it, I promise you it will check that little box. So I need to uncheck it, click OK. Now I get my space back. So I added space, it took it away, I added it back. And it wouldn't matter if I had not added the space in the first place and then imposed the numbering scheme, it'll still check that box. So at some point, you're going to have to uncheck it. It doesn't matter when. Now,
some people will want their 1-line items to have no spaces, while anything that has 2 lines or more has the space afterward. So you can go back in there and apply and recheck that button saying don't apply to this paragraph. That way, anything that's 1 line sticks together and looks like a normal list without wasting all of that extra space, which you might want. And a lot of legal professionals will make that choice.
Yeah, and you can, if now that I've turned it on, if I were to select these paragraphs and then go back to the button, the one that previously said add space after paragraph is now remove space after paragraph. So if I choose that, that's going to take the 12 point after and turn it off. And now those are closer together. All right, so I want to show you a couple more things about this. Let's say I go to the end of this paragraph and I hit enter. Exactly what I was hoping for, right? I got a 1.2 and I got perfect spacing between the paragraphs because I added that 12 point after. Now let's say though, I wanted this to be a sub paragraph. There's two ways to do that. You can either hit the tab key on your keyboard, and so that's going to demote the paragraph level. And if you want to promote it, if I wanted to push that back out to a 1.2, then you simply hold down on the shift key and you hit tab. Method number 2 for this, you've got two little buttons up here on your home ribbon. See the little blue arrow to the left and blue arrow to the right? And they will, if I scroll down here so you can see this, if I hit the right arrow, it demotes it. And if I hit the left arrow, it promotes it. Okay, so I find using the tab key is easier for that. But you know, I can go A, B, C, and it's going to give me the correct spacing. If I hit enter and I hit shift tab, it's going to move me back and make it a 1.2. Okay. Now, before I go any further, I want to show you how to change your numbering scheme. Okay. Now this is a weird thing, but you're not going to go back to the buttons. And if you look at the buttons, look which button appears to be pushed up here. It's the one I specifically avoided. I did not choose that button. But at each level of the numbering, it's going to appear as though that's the one you would have to go to make changes. Please don't do that. Instead, you really only need to remember one simple thing. This is another one of those hidden things about Word that once you know this, you're going to go, OMG, I can fix all kinds of paragraph numbering problems because I know this one secret trick. And the one secret trick is right-click any numbered paragraph and choose Adjust List Indents. Okay, this is more bad labeling by Microsoft. That should say, change anything you want about your paragraph numbering scheme. And instead, they called it Adjust List Indents, which causes most people to not even think to click on it. But if you click on that, it will reopen your numbering scheme. If you instead return back to this button and try to find your way back into your numbering scheme, many times you will simply create a second numbering scheme living within the same document. And then it will all go sideways. So you do not want to accidentally create two numbering schemes that can't see each other. You want to make sure you're editing the one you started. It doesn't matter what paragraph number you're on. I could be all the way on the very last numbered paragraph on this document. If I right click and say Adjust List Indents, I'm still right back where I need to be. So if I wanted to make any changes about this, let's say, for example, I'll just change the whole thing wholesale. We'll say level 2 is no longer going to be compound numbering. Instead, it's going to be uppercase alpha with a period. And I don't want a first line indent. I want the B to be against the margin, and I want the second and subsequent lines to be moved over a ½ inch. Level 3, I'm going to swap out from uppercase alpha to Romanets, and I want that to be a ½ inch from the left margin, and then a hanging indent of 1 inch for the second and subsequent. When I click OK, the entire thing, every single numbered paragraph in this whole thing is going to change to reflect whatever I just did. I didn't have to select anything. It didn't matter where I was or what page I was on, so long as you right-clicked a numbered paragraph and set Adjust List Indents. Okay, so it's easy to change your mind. If it doesn't look the way you want, no big deal. Simply right-click, Adjust List Indents, make whatever changes you want, click OK. When you hit OK, that will immediately take effect. Okay, I'm going to put those back to what I had before by clicking Control-Z, which of course is speed key for undo. Now I'm back to what I had before. But I just want to make sure you understood. It's very easy to change your mind. Right-click, Adjust List Indents. Now, you'll notice when I do that, I get this big dialogue, and I got all kinds of control over how the numbers look and the tabs and where they line up and all that kind of stuff. If instead you went to a document, I just want to give you an example of what happens here. I'm going to put in 10 random paragraphs, and then I'm going to number these using the button I told you never to use. Okay. If I right click and go to Adjust List Indents here, if you see this little bitty box, that's a technical term, little bitty box, then the author of the document you're editing did not use the multi-level list. They used the single level list. And as you can see, I can control only this level. Can I change the 1 to something else? No, but I do get the same measurements. This is how far away from the left margin is the first line, and this is how far away from the left margin is the second and subsequent. So this is a very common complaint. Every time I use this button, it always indents the whole thing over a 1/4 inch. I don't want it to do that. How do I fix that? Well, it's the same thing. You right-click any numbered paragraph and you go to Adjust List Indents. This is the problem right here. If I change that to a 0 and I click OK, watch all these numbers jump over against the left margin. Didn't matter what paragraph I was on. I didn't have to select anything. As long as you right-click and Adjust List Indents, you can still control the numbering. But sometimes you're just saddled with a single line or single level numbering, in which case you have obviously way less control. Okay, if you compare that to the one we were just in, I right-click this and I go to Adjust List Indents, I get a lot more options in here. Another reason why this is a superior approach. Okay.
You want to talk about cross-references now that we have some well-numbered paragraphs?
So right here, here's another rule of Word. You should never type a cross-reference, just like you should never type a paragraph number, you should never type a cross-reference. That's just one more thing you're going to have to check to make sure it's accurate if you edit the document. So here's how you can do, there's actually 2 methods for doing cross-references. I'm going to get a little bit nerdy on you here and show you the second method. The one that most people use is simply, I select what I want to swap out with a paragraph number. I click on the Insert ribbon, and there's a big button that says cross-reference. When you click on that, it is going to default to what's called numbered items. Let me zoom in on this so you can see it. Numbered item. And what's it going to show you? All your numbered paragraphs. So you pick the one you want. And I want to point out what your options are here. Insert reference to paragraph number. Would that work here? Yeah. If you hit the down arrow, though, you see you got other options. I can also put in the paragraph page number it's on. And I want to explain the difference between no context and full context. Let's say I was referencing paragraph or article 3. No, we'll do this one. Article 2.2b. If I wanted only the B, I would choose no context. If I wanted 2.2b, I would choose full context. Okay, so sometimes you want one, sometimes you want the other. And then in addition, above or below actually inserts the word above or below as appropriate. So if you put that as an automatic, I could add that after the paragraph number. And then if I ended up moving a paragraph, so previously it was below and now it's above, when you update your fields, which I'll explain in just a minute, it'll change the word from above to below or below to above as appropriate. All right, so I pick 1.1. I want the paragraph number. I click Insert, and now I have my fields turned on so they're always gray, and you can see that that is a field. Now, here's another way of doing cross-references. The kind of documents that I work on tend to have a lot of cross-references. And what happens if you've got automatic paragraph numbers and the paragraph you're referring to gets deleted? Sometimes that's totally intentional. This paragraph isn't relevant to this particular thing. And I want to know if my paragraph number, if my cross-references are now broken. Okay, but first let's talk about how you make sure this is always accurate. If I went up here and hit a hard return and hit a tab and put a new 1.1 and a new 1.2 and a new 1.3, now this should be a 1.4 and it's not, it's still 1.1. Okay, so here's a really good tip about Word. The only fields that update automatically are paragraph numbers, automatic paragraph numbers, and page numbers. All other fields, tables of contents, tables of authority, cross-references, file and path name, there's a bunch of them. They do not automatically update. You need to update them. And you do that by selecting the whole document. There's a bunch of ways to do this. You could always right-click the field itself and say Update Field, but if you have a bunch of these, that's going to take forever. It's easier to just select the whole document and update all your fields at once. And you do that with the F9 key. So I hit Control A is the speed key for select the whole document. I'm going to tap F9, watch that 1.1. So it just switched to a 1.4. That's what you want. So you can fit that on a sticky note. You can say Control A, F9, put it on your monitor, and then you'll remember to update your fields before you finalize the document. You can also, and when we talk about default settings in a subsequent class, there is a little checkbox you can turn on in Word where it automatically updates all your fields every time you print. And some people like to turn that on. So then if they forget and they print to PDF or to a literal printer, it'll make sure all your fields are updated. Okay, now let me go back to my assertion that there's another way to do this. And I would argue in many cases it might be better. And here's the way you can do it as well. If I wanted to cross-reference to this paragraph, I can cross-reference to the numbered item. That's what we just did. Or I could put a bookmark in here. Just notice the bookmark button is right next to the cross-reference button. That is not a coincidence. A bookmark is a hidden, non-printing character that gets inserted into the document wherever your cursor is. And it would allow you to, for example, jump to that spot. So if I had a really long document, I'm always going back to this particular spot that's like 14 pages into the document, I might want to drop a bookmark there so I can easily jump back there. Anyway, I'm going to put in a bookmark right here. Now you can call your bookmarks whatever you want, except they cannot have a name, or they cannot have a space in the name. So if I call this, limitations, you'll see that the add button is lit. If I type space on space distributions, you can see the add button is now grayed out. It will not allow me to click it. However, it doesn't tell you why, which is annoying. And I'm telling you why, and it's because I have spaces there. You can use underscore. Jump in. Yeah.
On the bookmarks, I like to use them when I'm referencing complex defined terms or other specific carve-outs that we want to go to again and again. And the reader, so somebody who would be reading on a screen, might want to jump to that section that you just referenced. And the bookmark will help you do that and keep those concepts together to make it easier to put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah, and we could probably do a whole class on bookmarks. They're really cool, and there's a lot of reasons to use them. But for this purpose, I'm just going to click a limitations bookmark right there. Now I have in Word, there's a setting that you can make bookmarks visible. They are normally not visible, but you can see that little I bar there between the A and the T on limitations on distributions. That's the visual evidence that a bookmark is sitting there. Okay, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to put a space and I'm going to do a cross-reference to that bookmark. So I'm going to do the same. It's going to be the same paragraph number. And you're going to see in a minute why I'm going through all these gyrations. So I go back to the cross-reference button. Instead of the reference type being a numbered item, I'm switching that to a bookmark. And then it will, of course, show me all the bookmarks. So I click on the bookmark I want to reference. I tell it I want the paragraph number. And I click insert. Okay. And they look the same, right? No difference. They update the same, they work the same, they both work. The issue is, while I'm editing documents, it's very common that a paragraph I need to delete, I intentionally need to delete because it's not relevant to this document, was referenced somewhere else in the document, okay? So let's say that happens. I delete this. Now, when I update my fields, this is going to do me the favor of bringing to my attention the fact that something was referenced, which isn't here anymore. And I'm going to get two error codes, Control A, F9. So this is actually a very good thing. If you deleted a paragraph that was referenced somewhere, you would want to know so you can fix that issue. Now, the reason that I use bookmarks in many cases instead of a numbered item is because of this. Let's say I want to know what got deleted. I don't even know what got deleted here. If you right-click a field, one of your options is to toggle field codes. And what that'll do is show you the underlying field that's behind the error that you're seeing in the face of the document. So if I toggle field codes, remember the first one was a numbered item cross-reference, and I get this ref number, okay? What useful information does this provide me? None. Do you have any idea what got deleted as a result of this ref number? No, you'll have no idea. Now, if I right-click and toggle the field codes on the second one, this is actually useful. It shows me the name of the bookmark it was looking for. And if I was descriptive in the name of my bookmarks, then I would know the title of the paragraph that got deleted. And I'll go, oh yeah, that's right. We had to delete the limitations paragraph because it wasn't relevant here. Okay, now I've solved the mystery. And if I put that bookmark here, if I make a bookmark called limitations and I update these fields, this will start working again. So the numbered items, so if I got a really complex document with a whole bunch of cross-references in it, and I know it's going to be heavily edited, I only use bookmarks for my cross-references because I want to be able to find what broke if something breaks. Furthermore, in my experience, the same sections and parts of the document get referenced over and over and over and over. Like you got a definition section, you're constantly referring to it. If you've got a 50-page document and there's 300 numbered paragraphs in it, and you go up and you want to insert cross-references and you're on the numbered item, this is a ridiculously long list, and it takes a while to find the one that you want to cross-reference. By contrast, if I'd use bookmarks, that's usually a very short list, and I can easily find them and reinsert cross-references to them. So anyway, that's just something to think about. I'll put back that paragraph that I deleted. So it's going to happen. They get deleted. It's okay. You want to be able to find what got deleted. So if that's the case, then you might want to use bookmarks and cross-reference to the bookmarks rather than a numbered item, even though numbered items are arguably easier because it's fewer steps. Okay, Ivy, any comments on that?
That is great advice, and it will, again, save you untold misery. Using Word well is one of the things that will make a huge difference in the happiness of your practice and the satisfaction of your clients.
Yeah, and so I have one thing to add.
Write this out and use it at home. Oh, please do add.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just had a random no firing. There's another reason that you might want to use bookmarks for cross-references. Let's say I wanted to reference the title of this paragraph, not just its paragraph number. If you select this, and I'm going to click on bookmark again, I'm going to choose the same bookmark, and I'm going to click add. And I want you to watch what happens to that little I bar there between the A and the T. Okay? Can you see now that I have a little left square bracket to the left of limitations and the right square bracket to the right of the S? You can actually wrap text with a bookmark. It's not necessarily an individual placeholder. You can select things and put a bookmark on top of it. And you may have noticed that one of my choices, when I do a cross-reference to a bookmark, one of the options is the bookmark text. And that's referring to the text you selected when you inserted the bookmark. So if I insert that, it actually puts in the title. Now I can still pull out the paragraph number from that if I want, but then if I go in and let's say this gets edited, as long as it's still wrapped with the bookmark, when I update, the title will update. So there's some ancillary benefits to that. So I've had clients that just didn't want to use paragraph numbers for whatever reason. They only wanted to use titles. And so that was the method they used, and they found it to be perfect for their application. Okay, sorry.
There's a good reason to use titles. It helps to improve the coherence of the thing that you're reading. And the longer and more complex it is, the harder it is to maintain those moving pieces in your head. If you include both the paragraph reference, then you have the legally operable part or operative part, and then you also have the cognitive bookmark by using the title, and it helps you to fill it in. Did you want to talk about the above below?
Yeah, so just to kind of complete this thought, if I wanted to make this a really specific cross-reference, I could say section 1.4, limitations on distributions, which appears on page whatever above or below. Same deal, I do cross-reference, I choose the limitations bookmark. This time I choose the page number, insert, and then I go here and I select that and I switch to above below and I do insert. And now all of these things will automatically update. The title, the paragraph number, the page, and the word above or below. And that was all stemming from a single bookmark that I did all of those references. So if it breaks, I'll be able to trace all of that back to what got deleted.
And I'll just point out that the getting above wrong or moving it to a page where it ends up below is one of those things that the partners who yell will often yell about. And if you do this right, you will never be the person yelled at. So it's that little added benefit of wording well. All right, and that's it for today. Thank you, Baron.
This video was created by Ivy Gray from WordRake and Baron Henley from Affinity Consulting, who both trained as lawyers and are now Microsoft Word and Outlook enthusiasts and productivity experts. This video is part of a series. To sign up to receive tech tips and training videos via email, please visit wordrake.com/tech-tips. How often have you frantically worked right up to the deadline only to stop abruptly because you must turn to small but important numbering details? Use Microsoft Word's automated numbering features to get your numbers right, then get back to the substantive work that matters. WordRake can help you get to the finish line with sophistication and finesse. It's software that will help you edit for clarity and brevity in Microsoft Word and Outlook on Windows or in Microsoft Word on Mac. Try it free for 7 days. If you'd like to learn more, sign up to receive tech tips and training videos at wordrake.com/tech-tips. When you're ready to take your work to the next level, try WordRake. WordRake is clear and concise editing software that will improve your writing while respecting legally operative phrases and key legal content. It's a finely tuned collaborator that will help you satisfy clients, win more business, and do more high-value work. WordRake works in Microsoft Word and Outlook. It goes beyond Microsoft's built-in spelling and grammar checkers to help you reduce legalese and wordy writing. It uses complex, patented algorithms to find useless words, dull phrases, weak lead-ins, cliches, and high-level grammatical problems, then offers suggested edits in-line. Your raked document will look just like a smart colleague with an English degree has revised your work using track changes. In 3 simple steps, you'll have a better document or email. Try it today at wordrake.com/trial.